focus really on what's become the talking point of the past few days. And it's that deal with Tottenham Hotspurs. SA Tourism today held a briefing about that proposed deal with the English Premier League Football Club. The nearly R1 billion deal to promote South Africa to potential international visitors has caused an outcry. But today, SA Tourism's acting CEO, Themba Khumalo, defended it. He says the money will be well spent and it will draw more international tourists to our shores. A visibly annoyed Khumalo said leaks of the details around the deal were malicious, and his mandate was not to fix Eskom, but to actually promote South Africa, and he had a budget to spend to do so. Basically saying this is all above board, I am making the right decisions. He said the deal was very close to finalisation, and yet the board has not yet signed off it, nor has the minister. Well, ENCA reporter Tsepo Tobane was at that briefing, and he joins me now in studio. Hi, Tsepo. So you were there. A very energized Themba Khumalo. This is a man who clearly believes in this deal. What did he say about why he's so convinced it's a really good idea for promoting our country?
Evening, Sally. I mean, before I answer your question, I think maybe if I give a little bit of a timeline in terms of why we got to where we were earlier on this morning. I mean, the acting CEO, Themba Khumalo, said that, in fact, discussions around this proposed deal did not just come this year. I mean, they started discussing this idea from last year, August, where they were looking at ways of improving the local tourism industry. I mean, just to go back to your intro where you said he's not willing, SA Tourism is not going to be fixing, or it's not their responsibility to fix Eskom. I think to a certain extent, he's correct, because you look at where they are coming from. I think their mandate as SA Tourism is to bring tourism, not to I mean, that's Eskom is the Energy Department's course. He also answered questions or concerns around the amount, 1 billion. Why are they proposing such a huge amount? And
it's a third of the budget, isn't it?
Yes, there were talks of why don't you, because they are partnering with an English Premier League side, Tottenham Hotspur, where you are at a country where most of our teams in the DStv Premiership do not enjoy sponsorships. And the acting CEO also came out to say, no, also that is not my responsibility. There's the Department of Sports that can look at that. Our mandate is to perhaps try to benefit or make sure that our economy or our tourism improves.
And it's marketed internationally. And that's the point he's making, is that when you do a brand association like that, there's a certain prestige that comes with it, and you're basically saying, we're here, we're on the international stage. Now, he threw some interesting figures into the mix. Nearly R1 billion in spend, which is a third of their budget. It's a big chunk by anyone's standards. But he said, he gave a very clear number on what he believes the returns will be over the next 3 years. Tell me about that amount. And did he break down how he can quantify that will be the return on investment?
Well, because I believe, and most of us believe, that is the media, he was defending himself about this proposed deal. But answering your question, although he did not go into detail, because he told us that some of the details are confidential, so he can't divulge them. But he did manage to say there's a handsome return on investment. I mean, you look at the 1 billion that they're investing, and then the return is 88 billion. So let's listen to what he said about that question, Sally.
Board had approved this particular transaction on condition that we engage with the various stakeholders. We have to engage with the ministry. We've got to engage with, our Director General. We've got to engage with the Treasury, Department. We've got to engage with the provinces. We've got to engage with our sports, arts and culture colleagues as well, just so that we can read them in terms of some of the activity that, should the deal go forward, will be happening on South African soil. So all of those things, we've had to, we'll need time, in order to bring all of those stakeholders on board. Once we have done so, we had envisaged, because as you know, the Premier League, the British Premier League is on now. It then begins in July of this year, after a short break. We had wanted to actually get the benefit of the tail end of this particular season, in order for us to build momentum, so that when we hit July, fully, having worked out all of the modalities and have our content, and our messaging right. It might take a little bit longer, but we are envisaging that we'll still be able to go ahead before the end of this season, and definitely, when the season starts in July of this year.
All right, so he said there that there's a provisional approval by the board of this deal, but the minister would still have to sign off on that deal. You said to me that this discussion, though, started in last August, and he's explaining that stakeholders will be consulted thereafter. But that sounds like they'll be spoken to when it's a done deal. And I want us to actually bring in just a clip of an interview that our colleague Dan Moyani did this afternoon. It's with SA Tourism Business Council's Chifiwe Chibengwa, and what he had to say about this deal. Take a listen.
One of the most important things is that we have what we call the tourism growth strategy that talks to the 21 million tourists by 2030. In that growth strategy that we as the TBCSA wrote, and we took it to the president through what we call the PPGI, we said that the markets that are going to make us realize the 21 million growth, in terms of the tourist arrivals, there are two critical markets, India and China. And if we are to invest large sums of money, we need to invest in these markets because these are the growth markets. The UK itself, it's a top market for us. It has had incremental growth for many years. And many of the tourists that come into South Africa, almost half of tourists that come into South Africa from the UK are repeat travelers. So we don't suffer from awareness from the UK point of view. They know about South Africa. All we need to do is to convert. And majority of those that come back, they're coming to visit friends and relatives. What we need to focus on is to say, how do we get the large growth in the markets that we've identified that will help us to reach the 21 million tourists by 2030. And China and India are the two markets that we need to pay special attention to. So no one has said that this is a great deal. No one has endorsed this deal. We don't even have further information about it. We're hearing from the corridors in terms of things that have happened or may not have happened. And we will love to get full information so that we can interrogate this. And we should have done so from the inception, not through the media. We should have sat down between the private sector and the public sector and agree on what are the good things that we need to do for tourism to grow in this country.
And Chifiwe has spoken to us so much about the impact of COVID on tourism. He's such a trusted voice on tourism. And he's saying they didn't know about this until it broke in the media. You were telling us this deal started being discussed in August last year. I mean, I'm wondering at what point were they going to talk to the people who have to make things happen on the ground about this deal? In fact,
we asked the very same question to Mr. Khumalo. He told us that the discussions were happening within the board, the tourism board, and also stakeholders from the UK. And then he was asked if he managed to inform the minister. In fact, just to go back a bit, he said on Tuesday, on Tuesday evening, they were still in discussion about this deal. And then the next day, on Wednesday, then there was a leak in the media. So according to him, the reason that they were still going to consult with different stakeholders, even including the different provinces in the country about this deal. But because now it came out, it was a leak in the media, those plans were on hold. They had to come out to explain what is the deal all about, so to speak.
Had he told, so he only told the minister after the leak, is that right?
He could not have told, they were still in discussion. So they did not, up until Tuesday night, the minister did not know about it.
Still in discussion about the deal?
According to him, they were still going to consult him about the deal after the deal has been concluded. So that's why he said the deal is yet to be concluded yet. So
and it's interesting because for me, he made a lot of good points.
Yeah.
I understand. He's got a marketing budget. He's got a clear mandate. Never mind that we might have a state of disaster declared, which might mean that budgets like that do get seized for Eskom indeed. But anyway, what I want us to listen to regarding the timelines, if this deal was so very close to conclusion, how come, business hadn't been pulled in? How come the minister didn't know? And particularly, keep that question in mind when you listen to what Ollie Barrett told us just a little while ago. Take a listen.
The deal was considered by people close to the arrangement to be imminent in terms of announcement. We were not being told that anything had been signed. Certainly, my sources close to the deal are still hopeful that it will indeed go through, although I can bring you one update. We were hoping and expecting, indeed, that there would be an event here at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this week, which would be when the deal was announced. Clearly, as we discussed yesterday, a lot of the timeline of all of this was thrown off by that leak to the media and then the controversy that followed it. Well, my understanding is that actually things are moving very quickly, and it may well be that the event to announce this deal, to confirm this deal at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, may well not happen this week after all. It may well have been postponed, and I think that reflects some of the comments that we were hearing in that briefing from Themba Khumalo just now. When he talked about the deal, as you say, not being signed, that was certainly what we were saying this time yesterday as well, but also saying that the deal still had to be approved by key stakeholders, including the Tourism Ministry. That does inject a little bit more uncertainty into all of this than many people around the deal necessarily knew was there, because, as I say, it was very much all systems go for an event to be organised at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium this week to announce the deal.
I mean, Ollie making a point. If you're planning a press conference, and it sounds from what he's hearing that it was pretty much all systems go on a press conference within the next few days, and SA Tourism hadn't actually got the go-ahead from the minister even by Tuesday when they had to tell her about it because of the leak, something is not adding up for me. Final thoughts on the presser and where are we going now? What is SA Tourism saying about what happens now?
I mean, obviously, they are talking about it's all for the benefit of the country, improving tourism and all those things. But just to go back a bit on what Oli said, I mean, I think that, yes, everything was set in place, but something that put a spanner in the works was the leak. I think SA Tourism did not anticipate that the leak will come out. So that sort of like put things, because immediately when it came out, that's when a lot of people who check social media, they were criticizing it, coming with all sorts of allegations, and then that sort of like put them on the back foot.
But my question is, would you plan a press conference before the tourism minister had signed off? And if she hadn't heard about it by Tuesday, no, something doesn't add up for me. Maybe I'm missing something.
Yeah, no, I think it's going to be interesting in the next couple of days. What, especially from the Minister of Sport, because at the end of the day, and the Minister of Tourism, they must be the ones who finalize this proposed deal.
Yeah, absolutely. So those are the people. Minister of Tourism, we want to hear from her next. Thank you so much.